Hi, everyone.
Hi.
How y'all doing? She's got my jewelry.
We get mugs.
Hi, Rima. Oh, we have
Hi,
mugs.
Alexis.
I love that. Okay.
Feel good?
Yeah, I feel good.
Excellent. Okay.
Are we gonna rock this shit or what? I'm gonna mess up her.
No. I'm like, it's hard to follow.
Really?
It's
Okay. She's gonna be the proper one. I'll try to mess it up.
It's usually the other way around, by the way. Alexis.
Yes, Rima.
Where were you born?
We gotta go to that picture.
No, not yet.
Oh, really?
We can. Do you want
Okay.
to? You want
Yeah,
the picture?
go to
Okay,
the
fine.
picture.
We'll go to the picture.
Okay, I'm gonna show you. I gotta stand up, okay, because I want to give you the specifics. Otherwise, you're gonna get confused. So I was born in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, right here. Is anyone from Bay Ridge? I love you. Where'd I go? Oh, Bronx Science. Oh shit! I know about those girls. That's trouble. Oh really? You're smart. I went to Bronx Science, so it's like 10 points below Stuyvesant. So yeah, I grew up in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. It's still actually very much the same. It is the melting pot of New York. So at the time, it was Greek and Scandinavian, and my dad, who is right here, and my mom is Syrian, and my mom's Irish. And then when I was 3, my dad took this water tower, which is right here, and bought it in Westchester for $300. He saw it in the back of the New York Times in the classifieds, and took it apart, put it back together, and chainsawed the windows, and they live in it to this day. So
and where is that?
This is in Maine, so it's in North Monmouth, Maine. So I split my time between Bay Ridge. My parents, I don't know why they picked Bay Ridge. I mean, they were kind of like socialist NYU. They were getting their doctorate. And I think they thought it was like a land of the proletariat.
Uh-huh. And do you have siblings?
I have one brother.
Older or younger?
He's 3.5 years older.
Really?
Gregory. Is he here? No.
Is he involved in the business?
No.
I don't know. Anything's possible.
No, he's not involved in business. He's in computers. Actually, my parents got their doctorates in American history, and then switched to computer science in the 70s, and he is in computer science.
Oh, okay.
And I can't turn on a computer, like to this day.
That's true, actually. And is that one of the first ways you ever made money, that one shot with the flower?
Oh, okay, yeah. Thanks. She's like keeping me on. I love it. So I started selling on the street. For the press, we say 10 because I think my parents, but it's truly 8, yeah. But we say 10 for the press. Pascal's kind of keeping me in line. But I started selling on the street. This is me, actually. My parents made this little cart, which is right there. That's me, and that's my brother. And he did it for one day, and then he was like, I never want to do this again. And I wrote a letter to my uncle, which is to the left, saying that I'm starting this business. And I sold on the street till I was 25.
And I would just like to point out that at the age of 8, he had monogrammed stationery. Or not monogrammed, personalized, in an interesting font.
I know.
Right?
I know.
How much were the flowers? Do you remember?
I have no idea, but actually it says Mum's $2. Yeah.
And was that successful?
It was super successful, actually, yeah.
Did you get to keep the money?
Of course. My parents weren't like pimping me. They'd be so upset. They still think that they sound horrible that I was doing this. My mom was watching me across the street. But I actually took the money, and when I was, I guess, maybe 10 or 11, I bought a Yashica camera and a darkroom and started taking pictures and developing film.
Seriously?
Seriously, yeah. So I was making money.
Wow.
My parents only gave me like $1.25 allowance. I remember that. It's like a quarter, and then it was $1.25.
Well, that's why I asked if you got to keep all of this, because I thought maybe it worked into the whole money distribution.
I got addicted to it.
And what would you take pictures of?
What's that?
What'd you take pictures of?
Weird things like trees with no leaves. It's like that bad scene in 3 Days of the Condor. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's such a fade down away. But literally like trees with no leaves and shadows. And my parents would take me to, my first movie I went to was at St. Mark's Place, and I saw The Lady Vanishes, which was an early Hitchcock, and they would show me all these black and whites, so I would mimic them with the Yashica 35X.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think any of those pictures still exist?
Yeah, they do actually. They do. My dad found them.
That's the next show. Okay. So your parents were also would also deal antiques, though.
Yep.
What kind of things would they sell?
So while my mom was getting her doctorate at NYU, they were part-time antique dealers, and they would sell antique quilts and mostly quilts, like quilts from, I want to say, Victorian 1910, 1920, 1930.
But then they sort of enabled your sales even further, right?
Oh, when I was 13, yeah. So they, for my 13th birthday, I mean, my parents were freaks in a way, and I love them, and you know, I really do love them, but they're intense. And I mean, just to backtrack before you get the gift, for my junior high school graduation, they gave me the Book of Mao. That was seriously. It's like my dad gave me the red Book of Mao. I'm like, are you kidding me? I was like 12. But then, you know, turn it around on my 13th, they went from the Book of Mao to giving me antique jewelry to sell on the street. And
did they ever say why?
why? Did they give me
Why
the jewelry?
Because you're just good at this? And
I love selling on the street. I mean, I went from plants to then I would take pictures from books from the 1920s and 30s and cut them out and put them in these pine frames and sell them in Bay Ridge, which is almost impossible.
Right.
If anyone knows Bay Ridge, it's like they're all firemen. Like who's buying a 1920s cutout picture?
yeah.
You know? Now. So I think they just knew I loved it, and I loved jewelry. I loved antiques. I mean, one thing that they would do is when they would show me antiques, they would tell me why something was good and the history. And I got really, I mean, I still love that part of it. I still buy antiques. I still collect them. I love the idea of something being passed down and the craft. And so they thought it was a good gift. And at 13, I started selling on St. Mark's. So it was 1982.
Do a little.
And actually, if you go back one
Where do you want to go?
bit, yeah.
There?
So this is St. Mark's. I mean, these are like images. This isn't the real, like, this isn't me selling on the street. But, you know, this was like St. Mark's. Everyone knows St. Mark's in 82. But it was like, it was intense. And I was 13. And, you know, I really wanted to be in the middle of it. I was going to Bronx Science. And I was already going to clubs. I was going to like Danceteria, an area. And I wanted to be on St. Mark's, and the antique jewelry gave me a reason to actually be there. Yeah.
So, who taught you how to make jewelry? Did anyone teach you how to make jewelry when you started making it?
No.
So where did that come from? How did you transition from I'm selling other people's things, right?
So, I definitely am self-taught. I'm a dropout. If anyone's going to school for jewelry, I'm sorry. I'm a dropout, and I started sculpting with lucite. So lucite was the first thing I picked up and started sculpting. And I knew about it from the vintage jewelry in the 30s, vintage furniture and Bakelite and acrylic in the 40s. And just started sculpting and practicing, and everything I've done has been self-taught. A lot actually reverse from antique jewelry in the sense of like I would see how something's made and then and want to see if I could imitate it.
Do you remember what some of the first things were you made?
The first two things I made, one was a huge carrot pin with like a stalk. I mean, it's like 1990, so it was like, you know, Todd Altman, you know, time. It was like whimsical. And the other was a Victorian woman with a bun and smeared makeup.
That's oddly elaborate, though.
Yeah, and the button clip earrings, though. I did those little button clips,
still
which
make?
we stopped making them because they stopped selling. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was.
All right.
Yeah.
Totally fine. But you would make these in your apartment, yes?
Yes. Yeah. I was carving in the back of my apartment, yeah.
And where was that apartment?
The chips were in the bed. These lucite chips were in the
man.
bed. I could get
That
really
doesn't bode well.
nasty, but yeah, I
No,
won't.
don't
yeah.
go there. Where was the apartment?
It was in the East Village. It
was?
was on 2nd Avenue and 6th Street. Yeah.
Do you remember what your rent was in 1990?
Well, I was living with my lover. We were splitting $350 a month.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so were you selling those pieces on the street as well?
Yeah, I started selling those in Soho,
Right.
and at the time, in the early 90s, Soho was, kind of, it was still at the height of in the epicenter of the art
Here.
world.
Yep.
I don't think they have a picture of Soho, but everyone knows it, so you're good.
Yeah.
I really wanted to be in that. I definitely loved early on the fusion of art with jewelry. Yeah, that's where I sold. Actually, I don't know why this popped in my head, but we used Lauren Hutton. She'll come up later on in an ad. But I remember Lauren Hutton jumping out of a cab and buying pieces. And I remember seeing the gap in her teeth. And I knew who she was. I was like, whatever, 19, 20. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about your process. And you
Yeah.
said to me many times that your brain is split, that you're like half artist and half business person.
Yeah.
Which I believe is one of the main reasons you are so successful, that you're still around. You want to talk about that a little bit?
No.
What that means to you? No? We don't have to. All right, fine.
No, I'm kidding.
We can move on.
I'm definitely, I've trained my brain to be able to separate in terms of when I'm in a meeting like today. I was with my CEO and CFO and product development, and then I'll switch into design, and I literally will switch into design. And I've always, since I was young, loved art. I've always loved art. It's what drives me. If I wanted to make, crap mass production, I could, but I really love pushing the envelope. So the artistic drive is one of the things that really drives me. And I love business. I love the idea of marketing what became the idea of building a brand. I'm great with math. I used to be in math bees. That's something actually that most people don't know. Yeah, I would stand up on stage and they would say, 323 times 42, and I would do it.
Do it. No, okay.
No, I know.
323 times 42.
I have to wear my little knickers again. I'll be all scared. And I love the idea of building a brand using business to propel art. So that's the bare bones of it.
Okay.
As I've aged and matured, I've grown in both those, hopefully.
Okay, so we're going to do a little overview about how this works.
Okay, so wait.
Do you need to get up again?
Yeah, I got to stand up. Okay. So this is the lucite, which is still hand carved. And when I first started the business, I hand carved each piece, and the lucite comes in these sheets. It's 1 inch sheets, 2 inch sheets, whatever. They get thicker. And we cut it out with a bandsaw, which we don't really actually. That's not really a bandsaw, but that's what the sheet looks like up there. We cut each sheet out, and even the bracelets, there's a hole cut in the center to put your wrist through. There's no mold. The most basic piece, there's no mold, which is insane. And in a way, actually, when I first did it, everyone thought it was insane, and I think people still think it's insane. But the good thing is no one's really ever knocked me up because no one really wants to do that work. Not even in China. So the lucite's all hand carved, and then it's hand painted, and this is like a butterfly, and we hand paint each piece, and then gild it, and it goes through a 7-step process.
Wait, hold on. Well, here's part of your process now.
Well, this is metal, so it's different. This is CAD.
Right.
So this is what, with metal, we're now using CAD as well as wax, so that's part of it. And this is also CAD. Right now, everything, it's revolutionized. CAD's revolutionized jewelry and how it's made.
Here's your sculpting.
Yeah, that's me carving a piece. I think that's my thumb. Yeah, I can. That's a flower. But I think, it's interesting because when people see it, like MoMA Is anyone from MoMA here? Okay, good. So MoMA, you know, when they first came, because I'd been in there for years, and you know, when they first came to the studio, they were like, it says on the plaque, you know, hand carved by Alexis Bittar, and then when they came, they're like, holy shit, you're hand carving this? And I'm like, yeah, it said it on the plaque. And but it's the smallest pieces that amaze me that, you know, we're still hand carving.
Cool.
This is different inspiration. I think this was for Jason Wu, actually, this photo op.
Oh, we'll get there. He's
Yep.
later. Okay. So we're going to talk about the collections.
Yep.
Oh, new logo.
New logo.
Can
Yeah.
you say anything about your new logo?
Sure. Yep. So to the left is their symbols, and we kind of base them on Wiener Werkstatt, which I'm obsessed with, the Wiener Werkstatt art movement, which is in Vienna in 1910, 1920. Anyway, to the left is Alexis Bittar, stands for Alexis, erase that. That was like a brain fart. To the left is Lucite. In the middle is Elements, and to the right is Miss Havisham. So it kind of helped define the brand. So, you know, people to this day, you know, they're still trying to navigate the line that there's these 3 collections and now 4. And so this even helped explain it and define each one even more. And so that is the, oh, there it is. There you
Yeah,
go.
well, we're going to go through all of them
that.
quickly, but I think it's really interesting because you do have like the 3 collections originally and now a 4th with the Fine. And they are competing, but they're also very complementary. And I always thought I was this one thing, and then I'd be cruising around on your site and see stuff on this other thing that I was like, oh,
yeah.
It's interesting how that works.
Yeah, I mean, you know, one of the things for me in the design process, but also even the business, was I wanted to not be boxed in. You know, I always kind of joke around like I'm a typical guy, like, you know, I don't want to be boxed into one look. And so when I first started the business, it was always with Lucite and Elements, which are completely juxtaposed.
So how would you describe like the Lucite woman or person?
It's definitely artistic. I mean, all of it hopefully is driving home art. It's reflective. I mean, at the time in the early 90s, it was almost counterculture to what was going on. It was, you know, in the 90s were very minimal. This was about color. You're wearing light and reflection.
We have another, hold on.
And that's a scary piece.
It's spring and it's available now, Alexis.
I know, yeah. Let's go to the next one.
Okay, well then we're moving on. New category.
Okay, that's the Elements. So I'll keep talking about Lucite. So, and
I don't want to scare you again.
Okay,
so we can talk about Lucite and
It's the butterfly on that thing in the bathroom. I forget what it's called. Yeah, thanks, the sponge. Oh. Pascal's like, I did that. The Lucite woman, I would say she loves art. She's definitely adventurous. She's a strong personality. She is obviously not afraid of being seen. And I think she's looking for something that's unique, you know?
Yep.
And then Elements was always a little bit safer. Its roots were started, I used antique and vintage pieces, and that's how I started Elements, you know, thus the name. And I liked that it had kind of a bohemian feel. I like to kind of characterize it like it's 1970s. You're smoking on a joint in Malibu, you know, and you're wearing these kind of eclectic, you know, not hippie, but almost like it's like chic hippie.
Yeah. Okay.
And then Miss Havisham is the youngest child, and she is 10 years old. I want to say I
Really?
can't remember. Yeah.
Already?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow. Okay.
And it started, you know, at the time there was no high shine metal in the market. I mean, it just didn't exist, which is insane now. You didn't really see it in fashion. And I just felt like there was this white space of sculptural high shine gold, high shine rhodium, sharp lines, very modern. And I kind of mimicked it a little bit with a deco root. And then always trying to drive home some punk. That's a combination of pieces, but
you're not really a punk rock guy. You mean like a punk look thing, right?
I'm not a punk rock. No, I was a ska mod guy,
right.
but I mean I'm not listening to any of it now. Yeah,
It's okay.
yeah. What was I going to say? And one of the things I always try to do with every collection is mix eras in. So I'll take a little bit of, deco and mix it with a little bit of 90s. Like I like making a soup,
Yeah.
in each collection, basically.
So then when it came to creating the Fine collection, was that a challenge to translate these signature looks?
Definitely.
Yeah? So how'd you do it? What happened?
I just had to do it. I mean, it was a challenge because Fine can't be seen as being fashion, in some ways. I mean,
Really?
let me back that up. It can't be seen as being something that would be out of trend. It can't be seen as trend. It can be fashion, but it can't be seen as trend because you're investing, and so,
okay.
For us, with Fine, I also wanted to make it accessible, and one of the tenets of the brand is this accessible luxury, in terms of price point. So I didn't, it's not platinum, it's sterling with 18 karat or 18 karat.
Yes, it's lovely, I might add.
Yeah, that's a good one. The other thing that was tricky is you can't change it every season. You can't just say, okay, this season it's going to be gypsies, and the next season it's strawberries. It's like people are going to be like, okay, that's crazy, and so it needs to have something that's iconic, that stayed on point and stays throughout the line. And so we came up with the marquee, which was classic, but still gave me enough play, just by the shape and also the points. And
Yeah, and you really rethought the tennis bracelet, didn't you, there? Hold on, I'm
tennis
going to go back to that.
bracelet. Yeah, so I love the idea of the tennis bracelet. It was something that I felt like I hadn't seen a lot in the market.
Not like that.
Yeah, and I wanted to kind of basically update it and make it modern again. And I think there's definitely a movement towards individualizing collections on your arm, and I like the way it feels.
Yeah. You're not wearing one.
No, but I do try every piece on.
You do?
I swear to God. I mean, I don't close
Seriously?
it, but yeah, I'll look at it on my arm, and Pascal knows. I'll take a clip and put
Really?
it. I have no.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and
We're
everyone's
going to
always
come
like.
back to that another time.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, we are. Will you talk a little bit? We were talking before we came out about art in fashion,
Oh, yeah.
and I know you're very into that.
Yeah. So, we were talking earlier, and I was saying that one of the things that's, drives me is art, and it's been interesting to watch within fashion how the art world is perceived in the fashion community, and how people are utilizing more art expressions in fashion. So there was a store, Robert Lee Morris, who's a great designer, had a store in the 80s called Artwear. And, it's a very small market of consumers that would actually buy it. And it'd be silicone. I remember this woman, Carol Motti, she did silicone, and it would be fluorescent, and there'd be gold embedded or a cultured pearl. And there was a customer, it was like Takashimaya, Artwear, maybe Bergdorf's. And it was a small market in the fashion world. And now in the fashion world, we're seeing a massive renaissance with that. And
Why do you think that is?
I think a few things. I mean, we went through such a period of time of minimalism, where specifically in jewelry, it was difficult to be a jewelry designer because it was almost like you wanted to design something that was not seen, it's like a little diamond stud or a little drop. There was no embellishment. It was Jill Sander, it was, I was going to say a jeweler, but I don't want to. It was very Jill Sander, Helmut Lang with a tiny earring and maybe a little bracelet, and that was it. And that was like 10, 12 years of that.
Sure.
If not more, maybe 15. And I think that as we got towards the millennium and past the millennium, there was an explosion where people wanted to wear color. Everything wasn't black.
Sorry. I'm not a millennial, clearly.
And
Swimming, okay.
yeah, I'm wearing blue, so that's
Yeah,
like,
see?
yeah. And people wanted color, and I think that I think designers and the fashion world have fought to be connected to art and not be seen as frivolous, and that it has a value, it has an artistic value.
Yeah.
And so I think that's been one of the reasons why that's being continually pushed through in the fashion world, and you just see it more and more and more.
Well, it also must be selling, because otherwise it wouldn't be around, I think.
Well, it sells, yeah, it is selling, but editorially they embrace it more than it's selling, you know, but it's definitely selling.
All right.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about your inspiration?
Sure.
Inspirations. I know you've always told me that you were inspired. We have never discussed graffiti, actually, but
Yeah.
maybe we should.
Well,
I was going to go straight to the antique thing, but you know.
yeah, you can keep going. But
All right.
I mean, I love, you know, mixing eras, as I said. You know, I'm not really super inspired by graffiti per se.
Right.
But I love street culture. I mean, I love that feeling. It's like, I think that is one of the best gauges of what's exciting in fashion in the world. You know, if you're in New York on the street, if you're in Berlin on the street, you see what they're wearing. You know, it's like you go to Christopher Street. I remember like there was a gay pride in Christopher Street, and like the kids were wearing these amazing clothes and jewelry. Like they're excited, you know. And so I'm always looking for that, and to me that's what the graffiti would symbolize on this image. I love sculpture. I mean, that's a Frank Gehry. I love sculpture, and that's Wiener Werkstatt. And you know, as I said, like looking at history and combining it, but then thinking about what the future will look like too. And you know, it's taking a bit from the past and thinking, what would a woman wear, or what would a woman want to wear today? What am I not seeing on the runway?
Yep.
How do you push the envelope, and what's going to inspire? I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think I hit it out of the park with every piece, but there's a few pieces in every collection that I design that I want to inspire that I haven't seen. You know?
Well, you mentioned Robert Lee Morris earlier, and I just kind of wanted to circle back. Is there anybody else in the industry who you especially admire?
Yeah, I think there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of great, you know, Theodor Farner is German 1930s deco, amazing. Jar is amazing.
Oh yeah, you've actually met Jar, haven't you? You have a good Jar story.
I do have a good Jar story.
No, it's not like that.
Yeah, no.
Just tell the Jar story.
Yeah, I'll tell the Jar story. So I didn't know who he was, and I was in Paris, and I got a note under my door that Joel is a big fan, and he'd love to meet. And I didn't know who he was, and I told a friend at like breakfast that I got this note from Jar, and they were like, "Are you fucking kidding? You don't know who he is?" And so, I mean, this is a while back. This is before the show at the Met.
Yeah.
Not that retarded. And so I went with my boyfriend. We were like rushing to London, and I went with my boyfriend. My boyfriend is a photographer and had his Walkman on the whole time.
Come on, seriously?
I'm serious. He had the Walkman on, and Joel was, yeah, he's incredible. I mean, no attitude.
So you went to his atelier?
Went to his atelier. Yeah, I went back, and I mean, we became friends. But he was great. He told me his whole story about, you know, growing up in the Bronx and how he got started and why he moved to Paris, and he had met his boyfriend there, and that's why he started that business in Paris, actually.
Well, you know, this is kind of funny because, a little off topic, but you know, there's someone else who you didn't know who it was, who you met before their Met show, I think.
Who was that?
Iris.
Oh, Iris, yeah.
I think you do need to tell a quick story about how you met Iris, because we don't have a slide and it is a little off topic, but it is kind of funny too.
Yeah, so Iris Apfel, I think, Pascal, were you even there for that? I think you were, no? Okay, so, yeah, so Iris Apfel, you know, amazing legend. Does everyone know who she is? Okay, great. I see the heads nodding. So I'm a big Iris fan, and I've known her. I'd seen her for years. This is like 8 years ago or 7 years ago, and so you know, Iris will come. She'll walk those trade shows. She walks all the trade shows. She's now 92. You know, she's there walking those trade shows, like doesn't miss anything twice. And she was doing the show for the Met, and she wanted to pull pieces from the trade show to wear to the Met. And I'm like, Iris, I love you, but you can't do that. We're at a trade show. Like, I'm at a trade show. I'm selling these samples. I love you, but you can't just pull them right now, you know? And she brought in someone from the Met. She brought the PR from the Met, and then I started like digging my heels, and I'm like, you know, no, like that's rude, no.
Wait, because you didn't really know who she was.
No, I knew who she was.
Oh, I thought you didn't. I'm sorry.
No, I just felt like that's rude. We're at a trade show. She wanted to pull the samples, and so I said no. So anyway, okay, so roll forward. The Met show happens. Big, you know, double page in the New York Times about the best show ever in the Costume Institute. I see Iris again. I say, Iris, you know, your show was incredible. And she hits me on the head. She was like, you bozo. She was like, I told you. She was like, I just wanted to wear your jewelry.
She's a very Alexis woman.
Yeah, she's cute.
Which is a really good segue, because before we go into, when you started doing ads,
Yeah.
because I think I remember this, right?
Yeah.
You were not doing normal ads. You had kind of this unorthodox way of getting your message out, which was...
Well, you know, for me, what's that?
I don't know what the term is for it, but go ahead.
That's okay.
All right.
For me, you know, advertising, it's like I still see, I don't take anything for granted because I built the business from the ground up, you know, and so advertising is definitely an expression to build a brand first and foremost, but for me, it's also like, it's a form of like adult graffiti. It's like a way to give a message. Mm-hmm. And I think because I'm constantly looking at everything, I feel like in advertising, I don't really see a lot of messages being given, or they seem repetitive or safe. And when we first started, I definitely like to find unique faces and strong women, and that feeling of strength. And we did street posters, you know, because I couldn't afford advertising in magazines when I first did it, and at the time, people weren't advertising fashion on the street. And during Fashion Week, it was like my way to basically say, you know, I'm here. And so we did street posters for years. And this is Diane Cantarato, and she still does all the runways. This is like 7 or 8 years ago, so she does all the major runways. That's Diane to the right. And I like that she's not that typical, you know, that typical woman. Like there's a certain kind of woman that I'm just never going to relate to. And I like women who are unique. You know, I don't want, you know, I'm never going to be the diamond stud, you know, tennis club. I'm just not. And I'm okay with it.
Yep. Well, now tell me, how did this happen?
I know. So major, right?
Oh, you don't understand. I got to interview her because of him. And she was wearing a leopard.
Oh, that's right.
So psyched. Remember that?
That's right. I forgot about
Crazy.
that.
And then she told me her hair was, she's like, oh no, she turns around, she goes, it's a wig. It was so awesome.
So Joan, actually, Pascal is part of that story too.
You might need to explain who Pascal is.
Pascal is right here.
We all know
Pascal, stand
Pascal.
up,
Come
honey.
on.
Get her. Let's get her over here. Come on. Are you really going to not stand up?
You
That
give me
is
a hard time about not
terrible.
wanting to have my
Okay,
picture
there's right
taken,
there.
and you won't stand
So
up.
Pascal
Seriously?
is our director of PR. And
With the hair.
With the hair. She's like, great.
Awesome. Sorry. Love it.
And Pascal was having lunch in Saint-Tropez with Joan and Percy. Percy's her husband. And she had lost a pair of earrings, and I guess she was having lunch with your mom, and she said she lost a pair of earrings, and their favorite earrings, and they're Alexis Bittar, and then her mom was like, my daughter works for Alexis, and yeah, and so Pascal called me, and she said, you know, I just, you wouldn't believe who I just had lunch with. I just had lunch with Joan, and I was like, oh my God, I love Joan Collins. Like, and I was thinking, why hasn't anyone really, you know, paid homage to Joan Collins? I mean,
She was
Dynasty.
thinking that too.
It's like, seriously though, I mean, it's like Dynasty. It like set like at that time, Balenciaga, everything was shoulder pads, you know, and I was with a friend of mine, Edwin Pabon, who was from the House of Extravaganza. Paris is Burning. I don't know if anyone knows the Paris is Burning movie, but he's the legendary House of Extravaganza. And he was like, Alexis for Alexis, so chic. And I thought, that is so chic. And I thought, let's bring Joan back. And then the other thing with Joan, we got to go back to the first picture though.
Sure.
You know, at the time when I thought about using Joan, I felt like in advertising, there's so much about youth, and I was just talking about it upstairs, but I'm kind of obsessed with it. I feel like all our advertising, our TV, the message of youth is kind of bombarded. And when I'm doing personal appearances with stores, the bulk of the women are, you know, 40, 50, 60. I mean, there's not a lot of 20-year-olds who are buying, you know, either Balenciaga. I mean, it's really a 30, 40, 50, 60 year that's buying ready to wear, you know. And you know, when I ask women, like, you know, I'm so inappropriate, I'll be like, how old are you? And they're always looking at me like, you can't ask that. And I'm always like, why not? You know, and it bothers me that the message in advertising is that you have this very short window of being beautiful for a woman. And it's like, you know, the fashion, and I feel like advertising is basically saying it's from 18 to 30. You know, if you look at all the ads, it's 18 to 30, which is a short window. And I think it's a fucked up message. And, you know, what are you doing for the next 50 years? You're lamenting? It's like, that's crazy. Yeah. So I felt like, you know, it's important to show women who are strong. I mean, a woman is beautiful at 18, you know, she's beautiful at 20. You know, she's beautiful, and Joan is, I forgot how old Joan was here. She was 79, I think, when she was doing this. But, and you know, I just feel like there's something about the strength of someone's life and life lived that it's worth, that's what the message you want to be talking about, you know?
Yep. A little full circle for you.
So this is Lauren, yeah, who, you know, I was so obsessed with her, and I still am. We went to the Met Ball, she took her shoes off. It's just like I'm not wearing these shoes.
And you've been working with some interesting photographers too, it's worth mentioning.
Yeah, this is Jack Pearson, who's you know, great artist, and actually the next one is Ab Fab. So these are the girls from Ab Fab, and also
so
like
awesome.
Politically incorrect. I got sued for using New York City. Who
you
knew?
did?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. There's a trademark sign like under that. If I had enlarged it a little bit, I would have picked that up. But and then this is the latest ad, which is again, like for fine jewelry, we were thinking, you know, should it be a woman? Should it be a hero shot? Mm-hmm. And I like the idea of a strong, powerful woman, and instead of like a bad prom picture, like when you see a lot of fine jewelry, it's usually she's like this, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I know where we're going.
And I was like, I want jungle red nails, punching, you know, through a wall, and just this feeling of strength. And it's an energy. And this is our ad that just dropped, and this is Inez Rao, and you know, I am the first brand to use a transgender, and she's a beautiful woman. This is the next shot. So this is what you're seeing in magazines now. And you know, when people ask me like, why did you use her? I'm like, she's a beautiful woman, period. You know, I don't have to define why I'm using her.
And I like there's a little.
Can you go back?
A little subtle message, maybe not so subtle.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
I was like, I want you to say, I want the fuck you in there.
I know. Well, more women. You have a crazy range of celebrity involvement, from Miley Cyrus.
Whoa.
I didn't know that, actually.
I didn't know. I mean, I guess I didn't know it. Yeah.
Michelle Obama.
Yeah, that's a good.
You went to her birthday party, dude. That's insane.
Yeah, the birthday. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just he did. I mean, come on, who gets invited to stuff like that? So I just was wondering, first of all, I have seen some pretty crazy things in your showroom that you've done. Like some of the crazier things that you've created, like some of the Lady Gaga stuff, maybe?
Well, that's one. That's like a crown of spikes. She looks so good for that interview. She was wearing it was like a pink, like a pink jersey, 80s top, and then she's just like, what? You know, I'm wearing a spiked. I mean, she's a great great artist to work with because she's so comfortable in being an art form, you know. I would say she's probably the person who will wear the most eccentric pieces, but we've done amazing, like we took a fencing helmet and embroidered cultured pearls. So it looks Victorian, it's beautiful.
It's incredible, I did see that.
Yeah,
that was
that's
incredible.
A good one.
Who was that for?
It was for a shoot.
Remember? Oh.
I think it was like Italian Vogue or something, I can't remember. But I think one of the things that's amazing is the breadth of the customer, which I think mirrors the breadth of our customer. It's super wide. It's, you know, from 18 to, you know, Iris is up there. Look at her. How cute is she?
I know.
Right? I mean, oh my God. I was at her house. Her husband's 99, and we set up her first Christmas tree because she's Jewish. And he came. He was so cute. He was clapping. It was so adorable. So we set up the Christmas tree this year. But anyway, so the range is, you know, super wide, and you know, and
are any of these people your friends now?
I wouldn't say they're, well, Iris is.
You text and everything? No texting with Michelle after a party?
No, you can't text the White House. Are you kidding?
Never know.
You can't even talk about the White House. But, I mean, I think Michelle's an amazing, for me, you know, it's definitely the person my mom was the most impressed with.
Really?
Yeah, my mom, when she first saw Michelle wearing it, I want to say, she called. It's like the only person she's ever been excited about. And I think that she is such an amazing symbol to the world, and so beautiful and graceful. And when you see her in action, she's an amazing woman.
So this is like one type of collaboration for you, right? And then you also do designer collaborations.
Yep.
And what role do those play?
What do you mean?
For you, like what do you get out of doing a designer collaboration?
Clearly,
Mugler, Jason Wu, Michael Kors.
You know, it's the chance to be, you know, to be able to bring two minds together. I mean, the first one was Burberry's, which is where we met.
Beautiful.
And you know, I think it depends. It's interesting, like with Terry Mugler, which was Nicola Formichetti. You know, for me, it's, even though I have I had three collections, now 4. My brain's always going. I'm always thinking. I have, excuse me, amazing design team, but you know, you meet another designer and they have another perspective, and you know, this when we were working with Tim Mueller, for instance, on that earring to the left, I wouldn't have thought of having a ball in the ear, like, so it pushes you even further to think of something, and because generally it's runway. Mm-hmm. I mean, the thing with runway or editorial is it's fantasy. I mean, you are designing fantasy / art. It doesn't have to be worn. Like,
are you approached about this all the time? Like every season, do you do something like this?
I do it, I want to say, yeah, a lot of times. I try to really be picky because I'm kind of, you know, well, I'm not picky. I run the business, and I'm the creative director, so it's like my time is tight. Mm-hmm. And Jeremy Scott is in the middle, and that's Alberta Ferretti. And I like also the difference, you know, and that's Philip Lim. Like the difference of designers, like Jeremy Scott's so out there and wild, and I'll have fun.
Oh, my favorite topic.
Boutiques.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about retail design for you, because I know we've talked about this a lot.
Yeah.
And in my head, like, I keep thinking Bleecker is your first boutique because it was like a whole different thing. But
can
you talk a little bit about what you think about when you're going to create a look for a boutique? Because there's a commonality, but they are not all the same.
Soho was the first, and actually, that's the original store up there. We've now renovated it so it's kind of brand right because all the other stores followed a formula.
What was the formula?
What is it now?
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to again like compress eras. I'm obsessed with Hitchcock, and so I took. There's a scene in the Drake Hotel in North by Northwest with Cary Grant after he's been like chased by the crop duster. I don't know if anyone knows what I'm talking about, but and he's in the Drake Hotel, and there's a cherry blossom, you know, wall, and it's just this elegant, you know, late 50s, and it's what I would want to go to in terms of like an old boutique, like what I think of Bergdorf's like of an era that I never went, you know. So in the late 50s, where it felt like kind of your bedroom.
But with a stuffed lion.
With a stuffed lion, yeah. So no, well, those are the walls. I'm on the walls.
Walls.
On the
Okay,
walls,
sorry.
yeah. So then, with the animals, I like the idea of something whimsical. Like I remember I first brought a bear in, and it was like this is like 8 years ago, and I just like the idea of this super feminine space, but then you have this lion, you know, in the space, and what was crazy is I stood there. I was so excited to get this bear, and I stood in the store, and the women weren't even looking at the bear. I'm like, how could you miss the bear? I would ask them.
Because we're looking at this, honey.
They're looking at the jewelry, and I'm like, how did you miss? Because at the time there was no taxidermy, you know.
Right, it was not a thing.
It wasn't a thing.
And but
so now we've gotten crazier with it. Yeah, now we're painting them.
Hybrids.
We were making hybrids with. Is it Frank Zitz? I think it's Frank
Zitz.
It is. Who is like a world-renowned taxidermist. Is that a word?
Unicorn. Yes, it is.
That's a unicorn. Yeah, just because you want one.
Okay. So you were talking about, you know, you're not the CEO. You're the creative director and owner, founder.
I am CEO and creative director, and I am also.
I could call you Mr. Bittar from now on.
Yeah.
But so your business has grown exponentially. I mean, look, you've got how many stores?
I think we have 12.
Oh, it's not moving. Okay, whatever. So you're opening in a couple more.
We're opening, I think, 3 more this year and 5 next year.
So what has this meant in terms of change in your day-to-day life?
I mean, I think I'm very structured, for better or for worse. I would have never thought it as a kid because I had such a problem focusing as a kid, but I've trained myself to be super focused, and it's probably a drag for people who have to work for me. But I get very like, you know.
You started wearing a watch.
I did.
You never wore a watch.
Yeah, I know, it's true. You know, I have built this business it's 23 years, and so now it's really the team that has come into the business. It's really passing the baton on. I mean, I can't micromanage it, and I micromanaged it, you know, all the way to a certain point, and micromanaging gets a very bad rap, but I think at a certain point with the business, it's actually needed, and now it's really this, you know, this amazing team, and everyone's plays a part, you know. And
how many people work for you?
I think it's 450.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because when you originally started, it was like
1.
Right. It's kind of a huge growth.
One with like 2 quarters. Yeah.
Did you ever think in a million years that it would end up like this?
Yeah, I know.
Really?
Yeah.
When did you know this?
I think I knew the minute I made the choice to sell to stores. You know, when I was selling on the street, I really there was something very freeing about selling on the street, you know, and, you know, I still look at it in a way like I'll look and I'll be like, huh, I did that for 15 years. But when I started selling to stores, I mean, the first store I sold to was the Guggenheim and Barney's and Bendel's, and I knew, you know, that right away that if I wanted to, I could build a large business in this territory because I didn't really see people glorifying costume jewelry. I mean, it hadn't happened for years. You know, it was like it was a vacant space, you know, so I think I felt like I could see it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And as a result, you can like give back a lot. Like I missed an awesome dance party while I was out of town. So I just want to know a little bit more about what you're doing philanthropically, because I know there's a lot going on, dance parties or not.
Yeah.
Who was the dance party for?
It's for Ali Forney, which is on 125th, and it's LGBT, gay youth, mostly homeless, and it's a great organization. It's grown over the years. I actually work with a lot of LGBT youth, and they will not only feed them, they'll give them a safe place, which I think is important, like safe in terms of all ways. It's not sexual, there's nothing predatory. A lot of them are, have been prostitutes, and don't know how to live in the world. Mm-hmm. And so they help build career, education, health, legal. It's a great organization.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So what's next?
I'm going to Tanzania.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I'm taking a trip. I want to relax for like a minute.
A little safari?
A little safari, yeah. I love Africa.
Do you take pictures on safari?
Yeah, I do, with my phone. But I actually really want to take a real camera with film, because my parents were showing me pictures recently when I was visiting them, and I forgot how nice film is. Like when you look at pictures, and everyone's taking pictures on their phone, and no one's saving them. It's kind of like, anyway.
It's become disposable, yeah.
It's disposable. But I love Africa. I'm a big fan of traveling and finding cultures that are not globalized with consumerism, even though I am part of it. But I love that, and Africa really clearly isn't.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, okay, awesome. Sure. Very quickly, before we get to questions.
Yeah, okay.
I love on cards. This is great. Advice for young designers today.
Yeah.
We had talked a lot about, we talked a little bit about authenticity, about brand identity, and about the ever important business plan, which you did not have.
Yeah. I'll take the last one first. So,
I had a feeling you would. Okay.
So, when I started the business, I didn't go into it really thinking it as a full business, as a business plan. I love the art. I love designing. If I sold to Barney's, I was happy. I love people seeing wearing the jewelry. I knew nothing about business, and I knew nothing about fashion. And I think in hindsight, I think it's really important that if you're starting a business, you're honest with yourself about what you want to achieve. It could be not only monetary, but ethics. What kind of business owner you want to be. I don't think there's there are maybe on ethics, right and wrong. But I think how you want to be seen, the size of your business, basically a business plan. How many employees you want, who do you want to sell to, who's your demographic, what's the price point, like think it through. I did it organically, and then at about, I want to say 12 years, I wrote a business plan, The other thing is I think the need to have an authentic voice is really critical, and I think in this day and age it's actually very difficult with the internet.
What do you mean by an authentic voice?
I think having something that isn't indicative of what's in the market, that's coming, you believe in it, you're not just making it to make money. You have a real emotional feeling towards it. And I think, personally, I feel like you want to have your own voice that's not seen in the marketplace. Now, you could say my business plan is to have things that are seen in the marketplace, and as long as you know that, that's good.
Yeah.
But I think that, for me, if you want to be noticed and seen, the best way to be noticed and seen is designing something that is original, or at least looks like it's not something that's already inundated.
Okay.
Yep.
And have you talked about brand identity?
Oh, brand identity.
Might have a little bit of overlap, though.
Yeah, there's an overlap. I think that, it's important to, at a certain point, again, going back to, what do you stand for? What is your brand? I would think about naming it, your name versus a non-name. Like, I have sold 50% of my business, and one of the hardest things was the name part. I didn't even think of it when I started the business. But I think, that's separate from brand identity, but I think that having a strong message is important, and that needs to come through the brand as well as through the product.
Right, so you're saying a strong message visually.
Visually,
right?
Your branding, your packaging, the whole thing. It's like, it needs, I did it completely backwards, and I'm constantly cleaning it up, so that's why I'm telling you all.
Really?
You're starting a business, yeah. Yeah, definitely, I didn't.
It doesn't seem that way from the outside.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Sweet.
No, Okay, you want to take a few questions?
Oh, yeah, sure.
I'm going to give you 3 questions, okay? And we sort of talked about this, but not really. How do you think technology will affect making and the handmade?
How do I think technology is making and the handmade? It's already affected it. I think, what we were talking about in terms of CAD and CAD design and I think that everything's really changing very quickly in terms of production. Excuse me. Most everything is produced overseas now, and that's just the way of the world, and I don't see that changing.
But you still do produce a lot here.
We still produce a lot here, but a lot of people who are designers never even see the product. They're designing it in CAD and sending it overseas, and they get the first sample come back. So there's no more touching. That is definitely what's happening. Smaller designers are doing it, and if it depends on, again, what kind of business you want to build. If you want a smaller business, you'll have to, then you would do it yourself. But I think technology definitely has its, in terms of the benefit, like CAD design and computerized generated design, has opened up levels of 3D that were very difficult to do, and wax is wax jewelry. So I think that there have been benefits too. I think, not that this is the question, but I'm just going to throw it in because it's definitely something that's, I think, a hot topic. I think the internet has changed also for young designers, the privacy, of what your designs are, and everything is so exposed at this point. I think it is difficult. So there are pros and cons to technology. It's almost impossible to go backwards with technology once we're there. So it's really learning how to navigate in it.
Okay, this is interesting because we never talk about this.
Yeah, what is it?
What do you think the next trend in jewelry is?
Wow, God, that's a tough one.
I know, right? Do you want to skip it? You want to try it?
I don't even know.
I know.
To me, it's like, well, I would say, I'd go back to what I was saying. If I was to say a trend, I'd say you're seeing more and more art in jewelry, and people not being afraid to wear art in jewelry. Like when I used to design, if you designed a big metal collar and it went, no one would wear it. We'd show it editorially. Now people will wear it, and I think people are wanting to see art and jewelry merge more than ever.
Well, do you have what about, do you have a favorite stone or material that you're working with right now? Do you ever go through things like that where you're like, oh,
No, because I use all of them.
You use it,
You know what I
okay,
mean? So
fine,
it's
so
like,
matchup.
yeah.
I think we sort of discussed this, but maybe not in this way. What was your first big break?
Oh, yeah. It's weird. People ask that, and I honestly don't have a great answer. I don't feel like there's ever been one big break. I feel like it's really perseverance, quite honestly. I've had great, things happen. you know, designing Burberry's, there was exposure there, or getting the cover of Italian Vogue, or things happened, but nothing transformed my business overnight. Like, you'll hear stories where, like, Michelle Obama wore a shirt, or, well, Jason Wu is a great example, where it changed, literally changed his business. I've never had anything like that. It's been definitely a layering of things, so I can't really peg it to one.
Okay. That's it.
Oh, that was it? Oh,
that was it. I told you 3 questions. We got 3 questions. Cool. You're done. You can catch your early flight.
Yeah. Oh, wow, yeah. I'm flying to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you, guys.